the real, raw, honest conversations about parenting teenagers in today's world. No filters, no sugarcoating, just truth, compassion, and practical insight from experts, educators, and parents who are right in the trenches alongside you. This podcast is where parents come to hear the conversations they didn't even know they needed. My mission is simple: to help you feel supported, informed, and empowered so you can build the connection with your teen that you truly want. If you want to go deeper into this work with me, stay until the end, and I will share how you can connect with me. From my heart to yours, thank you for being here, for doing the hard work of parenting, and for choosing to grow right alongside your teen. Welcome to another episode of Parenting Teens Advice Redefined for today's world, where we have the real and the raw and the honest conversations you may never even know you needed. Because when it comes to the challenges our teens throw at us, here's the hard truth. It's not them, it's you. But that's where the magic happens. And today's conversation is one every parent of a preteen or a teen needs to hear, because conflict isn't the problem. It's how we handle it that shapes everything. And today I'm joined by Masha Rusanov, a conflict resolution specialist and mediator who works with families navigating everything from sibling blowups to high conflict personalities. We're talking about what's really happening underneath the arguments in your home and how to move from constant tension to something that actually builds trust, resilience, and connection. So if your house feels like a battleground, this is the episode for you. Welcome to the show, Masha.
Thank you so much, Cheryl.
I'm glad to have you. I want to start first, Masha, in what you're doing and what is the point? What is your mission here?
I am a divorce coach and a mediator and a conflict coach for anyone who is dealing with conflict in their lives. And that's, I would say, 99% of people. If you're in the 1%, congratulations, you are an enlightened being. And but the why behind it is because I have experienced my parents' divorce as a child. I was about 5 or so when they separated. And then I went through my own later in life and experienced it as an adult. I've witnessed many people go through it. And I see the devastating effects that the conflict between the co-parents has on their children. It's not the divorce itself. Actually, the outcomes are not worse for children of divorced couples. It's the conflict. And that's why I got into this field, to help the kids who are in those situations. But to help the children, we really need to work with the parents and teach them this information.
And when we say conflict, and we're talking with, parents of teens, and when we first got to know each other, of course, I was all over it because I have 2 kids and now they're grown adults. But, in our house, there was the typical, I guess, sibling rivalry, sibling conflict, big brother playing the big brother role, little sister playing little sister role. And for me, I found it really hard because I'm an only child. And so there was never that in my family. And I, sometimes envied, I always wish I had a sister, always wish I had a brother. Didn't last long when I was a kid. I got a dog that kind of solved the problem. But when I would witness my kids fighting, I would just be like, oh my God, what are you doing? You're supposed to love each other. This is crazy. But my husband at the time had 3 siblings and so was very used to it. So his, approach was, they're just kids being kids, leave them alone. And so for me, was it a natural thing, or was this something I needed to fix? So I guess my first question for you is, when our kids are fighting, what is the difference between like normal conflict, leave it alone, or hey, this is something I need to jump in and solve, fix, intervene, What is the difference there?
Yeah. Well, the basic threshold for me is there any imminent harm? Yes or no?
That's a good trigger.
Psychological or physical. If I see that the path they're going down is leading towards that, then I intervene. But that rarely happens. And I want to say that conflict is normal in any kinds of relationships, adult or children. And I think the pattern really that is behind it is what defines it in my mind as healthy or unhealthy conflict. Like if things keep escalating, if neither of the parties is willing to take responsibility for any of it at any point, or longer than what feels right to you as a mom, that could be a sign that maybe it's time to step in. But generally also what I found works really well in our household, and I have 2 sons of my own and a bonus daughter, that when I see them start fighting or triggering each other, especially, the teen and the preteen, they're like, they love that, the brotherly struggle. And they do it on purpose and they're okay with it. I'm less okay with it than they are. But when I see it start happening, I say, guys, I don't like this. If you don't stop, I'm going to go and do my own thing. And usually that does it. If it doesn't, then I say, I don't care what you're, who's right, who's wrong. It's not really my problem. Both of you are going to get consequences if you don't stop. And that puts them on the same team against me as the mean adult, the mean mom.
Yeah.
But that works so well. It's like I heard it somewhere back in the day when the kids were younger, and I've been using that trick ever since. Not a trick, it's a parenting tool.
So in the event of a conflict, then, what would be a natural consequence?
It depends on what it is. I like the consequences to be related to whatever the misbehavior is. So let's say if they're arguing about like, oh, you didn't, I don't know. Let's use an example, very simple one. You didn't put away your plate, and the other one's like, oh, you didn't put away yours. And then they start escalating from that. The consequences are something like whatever you come up with on the spot, but it could be both of you are going to be on the line for taking away everybody's dishes after every meal for the next 3 days. Yeah. If we actually discuss the consequences with the kids for different types of things beforehand, and we have clear rules around like if there's disrespect, then privileges are going to be taken away. If it's chores related or cleanliness related, it's cleaning for everybody else type consequence, but it tends to be tied to whatever it is we're talking about.
I feel like because I didn't have the experience of sibling, like fighting with my siblings, I may even not have the skills for conflict resolution. Like I would very much, for many years, probably up until not too long ago, be very conflict avoidant.
Mm-hmm.
So, and found that in conversations where it felt like there's this discrepancy between this is a conflict or this is just me voicing my opinion, but you might not like it, but I still have the right to do that. So can you talk about the difference between, actual conflict and two people just having a conversation that is not agreeable? And I'm going to lead that into, if your kids are having this conversation, how is an adult, how is the parent guide it into, this is just you not agreeing with each other as opposed to fighting?
Yeah. Conflict has a very broad definition depending on who you ask. And some people might call the disagreement conflict. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to disagree, of course. And I totally hear you about being conflict avoidant. I was the same way for a while, for a long while. And so, I did my own therapy. And even now, I'm still not super comfortable with it, to be honest, being a conflict specialist.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
yeah, it's just, it's a mix of nurture and nature, how we see conflict and how we show up in conflict. And it's how your parents handled it too, which you witnessed, or how they handled it with you when you disagreed with something. And besides parents, there are other authoritative adults too around us as we grow up. There's the school and the teachers and the daycares. And if, let's say, in daycare, somebody punished somebody else for disagreeing, you learn that, oh, I better, be agreeable because I don't want the punishment. I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So, to your question, when kids are disagreeing, fine, like I said, my threshold is really, is it leading to some kind of imminent harm? Or do I see that one of them is getting beyond the point where they can self-regulate? Because that point, like when you look at kids, and at first it's all hee hee ha ha, it's fun and games, and they troll their brother or their sister, and then the sister responds and they're all laughing, then they stop laughing. Then after a while, you can see one of them is still laughing, but the other one is not. And you can sense that if it keeps going, there's going to be some kind of a consequence from the one who's not laughing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if there is there a way when we hear our kids arguing, is there a way to give them, is there a script we can give them to be able to have these conversations where they can disagree, that it doesn't make anyone feel bullied or smaller? But is there a way we can start teaching our kids at a younger age, even the pre-teenage, well, try this type of conversation. Start with this instead of this, you're an ass, you're a jerk, because that's how it goes. Is there a way to teach our kids now to have these conversations?
Yes. And I can share what we do at home and what I teach other parents to do. It's really, a lot of it overlaps with nonviolent communication tools. Like when you talk to somebody and you don't like something that's going on, you talk about how it affects you. But the simplest script that is also my framework that I'm teaching my kids is exhale, explore, and engage. For the kids, I sometimes even simplify it to 2 steps: exhale and engage. So the way that I teach it is I say, when you're noticing that you're getting triggered, or if you're activated or you don't like what's going on, first thing you do is take a really long exhale. Maybe 1 is enough. Maybe you need more than 1, maybe 3. And that creates a pause and an opening to get curious. Like, oh, what's going on right now with me? What is it that I want to do? That's actually the explore step. You get curious about what's the urge. What do you want to do in this moment? And when I talk to my kids about it, most often they'll say, I want to hit him, or I want to run. And then I ask, okay, so you've noticed that you want to do this certain action, whether it's saying something mean or even the urge to hit. Doesn't mean that they will, but the urge is there and it's okay for it to be there. And then you can move on to the 3rd step, which is engage, but in a different way. And I say, okay, so you want to hit, what would be the opposite of that? What could be the opposite thing of that you could do right now? Like if you want to hit, what would be the opposite? Not to hit.
Yeah.
Or, okay, great. Think of 2 more options. What could you do that is not that? Oh, I could actually say that I don't like it. Great. Okay. What's another one? I can leave. I'm like, yeah, great. Now imagine that you've done all 3 and see how it feels like. I have stayed, I have left. I have written a message, and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, so actually leaving feels the best. I'm like, well, maybe that's what you should do then.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, these are skills that we carry with us forever. I mean, again, growing up without siblings, also had parents who never, like, and I can say this on a Bible, never had a fight in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's lovely that they had that relationship, but also I had no idea how to argue. I not a clue. So anytime that even the slight resistance, slight like, this feels like somebody's mad at me, I was out. I didn't know how to approach an argument.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to know if you're talking to somebody who is in that situation and now they're older, now they're dealing with friends that they're fighting with, you know, are disagreeing with, having a conflict with. What kind of skills can we give someone even in later stages that has no idea how to do this, no idea how to say, and they just run, like literally fight or flight, right?
Right. So the framework is one skill. Another one is to listen. Like when you're in a fight, we very quickly go and focus on ourselves and we forget about the other person and we hear half of what they say, but we really think about what we're going to respond, right? We get defensive, we get triggered and activated. But if you can remember, like if you take the long exhale and if you can remember that, okay, this person has a point of view and get curious about what that is, then it will lead to a different outcome. And the way to start listening that I find very helpful is to start reframing what they're saying, just to make sure you understand them correctly. So they're yelling and, they're saying like, maybe they're not yelling, maybe they're just arguing. But if instead of responding right away, if you say, so let me get this straight. What I heard you say is XYZ. Did I get that right? This already puts you on a different wavelength than if you just go straight into responding. And if they agree, if they disagree, that gives you more, they can be like, no, you don't understand. You can say, you're right. I have zero idea what it's like for you, but I can tell this is very important for you. And I want to make sure I understand correctly. So,
Yeah. That's good. So if I would love to know how parents, so they've got these kids who are just fighting, how can they, like, how do parents unintentionally escalate conflict instead of diffusing it?
They start taking sides.
Oh,
too early or ever. Like ideally, if you can avoid taking sides all the way through, that's a win. But if you start taking sides, because you don't know what it's like for them, you don't know how they got triggered, they don't know how they feel. And taking a side means you assume that you know. And that certainly escalates conflict between the kids, and then their relationship overall gets more tense.
So how do we do that? Like, how do we support what's happening without having the other kid feel dismissed or blamed? Like, how do we do that? You're always on his side. How do we, and you hear that all the time, like in families. So how do we have the conversation with our kids where we're not making someone feel dismissed or blamed in a conflict?
I would say focus on you and why you are not okay with what's going on. And do it when they're calm, not in the middle of their escalated conversation, but maybe at a family dinner. I don't know if you or the listeners do family meetings, but that's a wonderful time to do that. Maybe a monthly meeting with the family where you discuss what's going on. And you can say, children, I've noticed that you fight a lot. And when you fight, I start to feel really upset and angry, and I want to leave. And can we together think about what we can do as a family to to help make it more manageable for everyone who lives in this household, and get them to contribute ideas how that could be addressed.
That's good. And now I want to talk about, as they get into the teen years, we get some pretty deeply feeling kids.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the fine line between, do I want to address this? Am I always walking on eggshells in order to not piss everybody off? How do we work like that? Because we know kids are teens, like there's, hormones, and then there's the friends, and then so they're just always like poised for battle.
Right. And there's some research from Bill Adie, who founded High Conflict Institute in San Diego, around high conflict personalities, which coincidentally the traits of those overlap with teens and teen traits. And they have high conflict personalities have 4 traits: all or nothing thinking, unmanaged and unprocessed emotions, extreme behaviors, and inability to take responsibility, so blaming others. And teens, when they're hormonal, exhibit many of these traits quite a bit. And there are tools that we can learn on how to communicate with them when they are in this escalated state, or just moody, or, the hormones are kicking in. Like, for example, talking to them using EAR statements: empathy, attention, and respect. The teen comes and they're like, I don't want to eat. I want to go hang out, and I don't care about what you say. I can see how important this is to you to spend time with your friends. I respect that that's what you need.
Wow. Yeah. So, and it's, as we're talking about friends, so here's another element to teens. They have the circle of friends, their best friends. There's 5 of them together all the time. And then there's a fight. And now one is completely excluded.
Yep.
And as parents, once they're teens, we can't phone up the friends and say, hey, get it together. You guys need to be friends. How do we help our kids manage? We get the mean girls, we get the bullies. How do we help our kids navigate those situations?
Just by asking them questions, being curious about what's going on. The questions we ask, we cannot really teach them unless they're open to being taught, unless they're asking questions. But to get the conversation started so that they would ask questions, we can start asking them questions like, oh, tell me what happened. Oh, I see. Why do you think this happened? What do you think drove this situation? What do you think was behind it? If you had a magic wand, what would you do? What do you wish happened right now if you could make anything happen? And so on. And then we can share, but even sharing, we can start with a question like, would you like to hear what happened to me when I was in 10th grade? And they can say yes or no. And if no, we have to respect that. But if yes, that opens the door to say like, oh, when I was in 10th grade and my friends ganged up on me, I felt so lonely, and et cetera, and just teach empathy like that through ourselves.
Yeah. And how do we then encourage them to, if that, I'm going to say that friendship is now over. There's no moving on. How do we build the confidence in them to understand you're not the common denominator. You're not the reason that you're kicked out of the group. Like, how do we encourage them to start seeking out different relationships and try again? Because I know, like anybody, right? When we have a fight or we get kicked out or we feel excluded, we're scared to try again. And trust that. Is there conversations we can have with our kids to lead into it's time to seek out a different relationship? It's time to, test the waters again without being afraid because you don't want to get into another fight.
Yeah, there are ways to start building that confidence in early on. I find that watching movies and discussing certain things that happen in the movies with them can be quite
Mm.
enlightening and helpful, and makes them think about it, like, oh, look what happened to this guy over here, what do you think happened there, why do you think this happened? And they'll talk about it, and then we can say, like, do you think this was a healthy situation for them or no? And most of the time they know, like, they from the outside they can see.
Yeah.
And then when some similar situation happens to them in real life, we can say, like, oh, remember that movie, remember what happened to that guy? We talked about that. How do you relate? You're now part of a similar situation. How do you feel? And that opens the door. But as much as I wish there was a way to teach them the confidence and the clarity around what's healthy and what's not healthy, I don't think we can teach them unless by example.
True.
And right? It's really hard to explain something that they're not seeing in front of them.
Yeah. I wonder, I would love to get into the divorce conflict of co-parenting, but I would also like to say, without the divorce, parents fight.
Oh, yeah.
Parents fight all the time. When you are a fighting couple in a fight, what is a really healthy way that we have our kids in the periphery, they're watching us fight, they're watching us have this disagreement. What are the key things that we want to make sure we're doing so when they see this, they see it's healthy and they see there can be a resolution?
Mm-hmm.
How do we teach them these skills? Like, what are we saying to each other in this fight, knowing there's witnesses?
Yeah. One extreme is to not fight in front of them, and you know how that ends, right? They become
right.
But that's an unrealistic expectation. Again, in the calm state when nobody's fighting, that's when you have those conversations. But you explain that there are things that people have to figure out between themselves, and sometimes it might sound scary or it might look scary or intimidating, but we need to do this to figure out the disagreement that we're having. But the mistake that I see so many co-parents or married couples make is they'll fight not thinking who's in the room. And let's say the kid is in the room. And then they go their separate ways for a bit. The kid goes to bed. And then they go and they have makeup sex at night. And they're fine the next day. The kid clearly doesn't see the makeup part, right? Which they shouldn't.
Thank God.
Right? But what we can do is we can say, honey, just wanted to follow up on that. You may have seen something between us. We have worked it out. We're okay now. How was it for you? And just check in with them. Are you still scared? Are you still worried? Do you have any questions? Mm-hmm. But so many parents forget about this, that like kids don't see the makeup quite a while.
That is such a good point. That is because they don't see the resolution. So in their heads, it just goes away. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be that specific type of resolution.
Yeah.
Very often, it happens. The resolution happens when the kids are not around, so they don't see it, no matter what format it takes. And then the next time they see the parents, they're fine, like nothing happened. And they're like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so it's not unhealthy to argue in front of your kids. The unhealthy part would be to not let them see a resolution. Right.
And to not acknowledge that it's happening, because that also happens a lot, where parents will argue and then act like nothing happened, and they don't acknowledge to their kids that this happened. But it has such a huge effect on the child that for them, it definitely did happen. Right?
Oh, yeah. There's a part of arguing, I'd love to talk about this. There's this part of arguing that is not just yelling and slamming doors and all of this, but there's the silent treatment.
Oh, yes.
Can you talk about the effects of the silent treatment? Because, yes, I think that's really important to understand.
Yeah. Silent treatment is a control tactic, a manipulation tactic that adults sometimes use and kids learn from them to use and what it feels like. But it sends a very clear message that you're not important enough for me to acknowledge your presence, existence, or opinion or emotions. And that's such a hurtful message. Like, I don't respect you enough to respond to you right now. I'm going to teach you by being mean to you like this. And it just tears anyone apart, really, if you've ever been subject to silent treatment. It just is so debilitating. But also, if the child witnesses that between the parents all the way through teen years, subconsciously, every child, the smaller they are, the more it's felt. But subconsciously, they're half mom and half dad. And whenever either one is being treated like that or yelled at or called names, they subconsciously hear it as it is about them. I don't deserve the respect. I don't deserve being talked to. And they're learning that, this is what a relationship looks like. It's okay to use tactics like that.
So hurtful and so powerful, the silent treatment. I mean, I understand that some people in conflict need that space. But I feel like you have to name that. Listen, I need to walk away, and name it so everybody hears it.
Yes, you're right. You can have space. That's absolutely and totally valid and healthy, but you have to say it. Like, I am so angry right now. I cannot talk. I will say something mean. I better walk away. I'm going to come back when I'm ready and we'll discuss this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or at least have a secret word for that, like a timeout.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have the emotions regulated to be able to say long sentences in that moment, but it's just a short word where like timeout or whatever it is, pineapple.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how you say about they're half them or half you and half them. And that is very much anytime I've done a podcast about divorce and co-parenting, I have always had this very strong stance and coming out of experience that you don't talk badly about the other parent in front of the kids, period, ever. And I say that for the exact same reason that now, my dad's an ass, so I'm 50% ass. Or, my mom's whatever. And I feel like kids take that on. And now we're shifting into co-parenting. How do you feel about these type of conversations where parents feel like, I have to defend myself. I have to look, your dad's saying terrible things about me, so now I have to. And now the kid is in the middle of this. Can you speak to that? Because I think that's really important to understand.
Yes, unfortunately, it happens so much more often than it should. And I think it happens because the parents don't understand the impact of what it does to their child. But yes, even though they don't say it explicitly, but they hear it, it lands somewhere deep inside as half of me is broken because that parent is bad. That might mean that I am bad. Or they form an alliance, get pulled into that alliance with one of the parents, and they become part of this codependent dynamic where they become loyal. It's called loyalty bond, where they become loyal to one of the parents, usually the one that's less grounded and less emotionally regulated. But then they feel guilty for even thinking about the other parent, for loving the other parent. And that breaks the child apart because it creates internal conflict within them. I have mom is unhappy about dad, and I have dad whom I love. But if I love my dad and I show it, mom is even more unhappy. So they try to manage it by being one way around mom, being another way around dad. And it's so difficult. It's so much for them to carry.
It's exhausting just even thinking about. So for parents, co-parents who now must be in the same room, they must deal with a conflict. What are we making them very aware of? In the environment, where are they having this conflict? How are they having this conflict? That's healthy and normal, but healthy. What are some tips for co-parenting, especially in the beginning stages? Like, hopefully we're catching parents now who are like, oh, I'm just starting this and this is a process and I can't stand, now he's the fun guy and I'm the mean parent and I need to like let them know why we're divorcing or what, all the terrible things. How can we lay the groundwork for co-parents who are just starting this process?
Right. There are specific roles that the parents carry and the kids carry. There's a hierarchy in the relationships between the parents and the kids. The parents are the adults and the kids are their dependent children. If one of the parents starts sharing information about the adult relationship, they unintentionally put the child up on the same level as the adults, which is a very heavy place for the child. They don't have the capacity to carry an adult relationship dynamic on them because they're a minor, their executive function is still forming, their prefrontal cortex is still growing, and they don't have the capacity to handle that. But if we start showing how we feel about that other adult, or even more sharing details about the relationship or the situation or the divorce that they're divorcing, the child picks it up. They have nothing else to do. And they end up carrying this adult heavy weight of responsibility because, kids, they depend on their parents. And if their parents happy, the kid is happy. So they try to make their parents happy by picking it up and carrying it. And this is just too much for them to handle. So if the parents are in a conflict, co-parents, just remember that the child, they cannot do that for you. They cannot be your friend, your therapist. There are certain resources that you can go to. If you need to talk to someone about how you feel, it's absolutely fine to do that. Just don't do it to your child because they can't handle it. It's too much for them.
I love how there's a hierarchy. I like that is such a great way to put it. And they can't carry it, nor should they carry it.
No. Right.
That's really important. So if you're just launching into this process, you need to listen to this over and over and over again because it's easy to get sucked into. It's easy to feel like, the other parent saying terrible things and you feel the need to defend yourself to your kid. You need to dial a friend.
Yeah, exactly. Dial a friend. And by the way, the child eventually will know which one is safe, right? The one who's sharing the negativity doesn't feel safe. They may think that they are, but they will know. The one who is not showing that is the safe, grounded parent. And over time, most children figure that out.
1000%. Both mine figured out, not that we were in a high conflict, but really as they emerged into adulthood, they understood. And so kids, you don't have to defend yourself. Your kids will figure it out eventually. And you don't need them to figure it out now.
Yeah.
I love that. Masha, this has been really impactful. I mean, conflict is conflict. And if people are listening, it's like, I don't even know how to start. Now they know how to start having conversations. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that is a really good message you want to share?
Just another parallel maybe about the hierarchy.
Yes.
Because of the way the kids are, parents need to be careful around making sure they have boundaries. The kids need boundaries. And it's similar to how they get pulled up to the adult role. If they don't have boundaries, they get dysregulated. the world becomes a very scary place because, the smaller the child, the more boundary they are. And then as they grow, the boundaries expand little by little. And parents in conflict sometimes, to get loyalty, will say like, oh, with me, you don't have to worry about anything. And they go into the extreme of permissive parenting where they just remove any kind of boundaries. Oh, you want this? Okay, great. You want that? Great. But that actually harms the child a lot more than what might be visible. Yes, they get the benefit of their loyalty and love, but they get a child who's absolutely confused and dysregulated. And that's just something that I would like our listeners to remember, that the kids, they need boundaries. Parents are adults. They set the boundaries. And it's very important for child development to feel safe. Like specifically with teens, I talk to my kids about having a safe word that they can text me when they're in a situation where they feel uncomfortable. I'll call them then and I'll say, oh, you're late, you're past curfew. I'm going to come and pick you up right now. You didn't do your chores, whatever I can come up with. But I become the bad parent. And their friends know it, that I might do that. And that makes them feel safe, that they can go to me, they can rely on me, and I'm going to pull them out of whatever trouble they're in. So if we didn't have the boundaries, I wouldn't be able to do that,
Yeah, that's so true. My daughter and I had the same thing. She was always wanting to go out and sleep over. And then, she would feel uncomfortable. There's something happening there that shouldn't be happening. And she would just text me one word and I'd call and say, you didn't clean up your room.
Exactly.
And I'm sure she hung up saying, my mom's such a bitch, but oh, thank God she's coming to get me. Yeah, it's such a common thing. I love it. That's it. This has been really helpful, Masha. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, but very impactful with our kids, with our sibling rivalry, with the fights, what's healthy, what's not, and then in the co-parenting arena where we really need to set those boundaries and know who we're talking to and what we're talking about in front of our kids. I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for listening to Parenting Teens Advice Redefined for today's world. And I'm so grateful for the time that you take to listen. And when you are sitting at 11 o'clock on Google thinking I'm failing as a parent, listen, if you're listening to the podcast or you're reading the books or you're asking the questions, you're not failing. You are still in the game. You're not alone. And we got you here. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Before you go, I really want you to know something. I'm not just a podcaster. I'm a speaker, a published author, and the founder of Insight to Impact. I'm an educational strategist and family advocate with over 25 years of experience helping families and schools support teenagers from diagnosis to IEPs, to interpreting assessments, to high school transitions, and beyond. This podcast, Parenting Teens Advice Redefined for Today's World, is part of my mission to help parents understand schools, support their teens, and feel heard and seen at the table. If today's episode helped you, please subscribe or follow the show, share it with another parent, and leave a review. It truly helps families find the support. And I'm very grateful when you do these things. And if your teen is struggling in school, navigating a new diagnosis, or you need help preparing support at school, you can work with me directly through educational consulting or my 90-day advocacy program. Just visit CherylPankhurst.com to learn more and to book a complimentary consultation to see if I can help. I know parenting is frickin' hard, but if you're listening to podcasts, if you're reading the books, if you're looking for answers, you are not failing because you're still trying. You do not have to figure this out alone. I got you, and we'll see you next week.